everyone. I'm going to go ahead and kick us off with our Google webinar series. To begin with, I'm coming to you all from St. Paul, Minnesota. I am a part of Bloom's professional development team. Everyone on our team, we're all former teachers and we're all currently licensed educators. We also all love to help and support teachers in all aspects of how to really get the most out of technology in their classrooms. So that's our biggest goal, is to help support teachers, administrators, and pretty much any role across the district to really help support integrating technology and getting the best use out of it within your classrooms. Our email address, I'm going to say a few times throughout this series, but if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Our email is pd@bloom.com, and that reaches anyone on our team. So you'll have a whole slew of wonderful ladies to be able to reach out to in case you have any questions. And my name is Kate Hines. I am a former high school Spanish teacher. I taught for 9 years in St. Paul, and then I later worked as an assistant principal at a charter school in Minneapolis for a couple of years, and now I've been with Bloom for 2 years. Smart certified trainer, Google certified trainer, but again, that email address is pd@bloom.com. And I have my lovely, amazing, awesome Camille colleague joining us today as well. Camille, if you want to go ahead and quick introduce yourself.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're excited to have you. Thanks for letting me join in here, Kate. My name is Camille Verity. I'm the Education Services Coordinator. So I'll be moderating the chat today. If you guys have any questions, comments, throw them in there and I'll make sure that we flag Kate down to get them answered.
Awesome. Thank you. So with this series, we have a 3-part series to really get information out to educators about what are some of the updates, what are some of the changes that are going on with Google. So today's focus, I'm going to give you an overview of what those different tiered options are and what that looks like. There are some name changes to some pieces within Google, so we'll take a look at what stays the same, what's the name difference, and then we'll look at some of the added features that come with some premium subscriptions for Google Workspace. So when you do decide to go a different route with Google, we'll explore some of those additional pieces that come with those added, with that higher tier of Google Workspace. The next Thursday, we will be talking through some of the updates that have happened already within Google Workspace. There's already been some new interactive tools, some different engagement tools for students and teachers that have already been pushed out. But we'll take a look at reviewing those, what's already available and what's to come. A few that are going to be released in the upcoming months to see how Google's revamping, re-engaging, and bringing in some pretty great features. And then our last session that we have will be on May 19th, and that Thursday will be a question and answer session. So we'll go through what's going on with Google with the different tiered pieces. Then we'll look at those updates, those different features. And then that last session will address any of those more common questions that have come up. So in case I'm not able to get to those questions today or next week, hold on to them or put them in the chat, and we'll make sure to address those during that last Google Workspace question and answer session. Okay. Yeah, George, good question. So George won't be able to stay for the whole session. Currently this is being recorded and we will be posting it to our YouTube channel. And we'll be, and maybe Camille, you could provide some insight do they get it emailed a recording or how does that work?
Yes, George, we'll email you a recording after the webinar is over with the recording and the slide deck, so you have all the information to go back on.
Wonderful. And I believe we'll get through a big chunk of time or a big chunk of our content probably within the first like 20 to 30 minutes of our webinar today too. So if you do have to leave early, we'll do some review at the beginning of our session next week as well. All right, to kick us off, just so I can hear from all of you a little bit more, we already talked about our location. If you could let me know what your role is. And then I have 2 prompts taking a look at 2 of the tools that are available in Google Workspace. So how have you used Google Classroom with your students? And how have you used Google Meet with your students? So those two applications we're going to see, there are some premium features available in those two apps that I'll be highlighting today. So I'd like to just hear a little bit about how you're currently using it or how you've used it in the past. Yeah, George, so you've been tasked to develop some sessions. Yeah. And what is your role in your district, George? Yeah, so this would be a big hot topic for you for sure. I'll provide you with an overview. We'll take a look at the overview and I'll provide you with some resources as well to help you better guide that training and that overview. Thanks, Jocelyn. Yep, you're welcome, George. All right. Thanks, team. So to kick us off, the title of this series is Google Workspace. And that name came about due to Google wanting to ensure that it met the needs of different schools at different levels of what they're needing to engage with the different tools. So Google Workspace is still Google. It used to be called G Suite. That was the former name of it, and now it's been moved into to being called Google Workspace. In a nutshell, Google Workspace is still includes all of those applications that you're familiar with that were a part of G Suite. So within Google Workspace, we have those familiar applications like Google Classroom, Google Drive, Docs, Sheets, Gmail. All of that is still a part of that Google Workspace area. So again, it's to be used for schools, for businesses, for nonprofits, but our focus that we'll be taking a look at is primarily with K-12. Yeah, and like George mentioned too, or I saw a couple of people were mentioning private messaging, using Classroom again for getting materials out, not only to students, but to get materials out for staff. So it's a great hub to be able to house really important resources for your staff, or to be able to have, if you're doing an interactive professional development so that teachers are able to engage and collaborate with each other in that space, it's another great resource as well. All right, so with our update from moving from G Suite to Google Workspace, we now have 4 different tiers of Google for Education editions. So the first one that we have is our free edition. Anybody is able to sign up for Google Workspace for Education Fundamentals. So with that, you're going to have access to those collaboration tools, still have access to be able to create Google Drive, Google Classroom will still be available. There are some pieces that as we start to move up in the tiers that are going to be really helpful for security reasons, for admins to be able to see some backend data information, but also for teachers and how they're able to better utilize some collaboration and engagement tools with their students. Okay. So moving from our fundamentals, moving on to our next one, we have Google Workspace for Education Standard. So that's our first tier within the paid editions for Google Workspace. With that first tier, with that education standard, we're going to see some increase in control across that learning environment. So that's going to be really helpful. I'm thinking for you, George, or for any of those other tech admins that we have on here, for you to be able to have advanced security and to be able to have better analytics. So to be able to see use cases, how are that back end piece of it, your OU, you're going to have a lot more functions available with that next tier. Our middle tier that we have available, teaching and learning upgrade, that we're going to see everything from fundamentals and education, but we're going to have some additional teacher tools to help with enrichment and to help with student engagement and collaboration pieces. I'm going to go into more detail for each of these with our next few pieces, but just so you get a brief overview for those pieces. And then our last tier that we have, the highest tier that we have for those paid editions are going to be Google Workspace for Education Plus. So teachers won't see too many changes moving from teaching and learning to Education Plus, but admin are going to see a big difference between those two because you're going to have more availability, more options with Google Meet. You're going to have more analytics, more security, and you're going to have the ability to have a little bit faster return time for support straight from Google. All right, so I'm going to break down our 3 paid editions, and then we'll take a look at within teaching and learning, since this is our teacher series, to really see what teachers are going to see with that paid upgrade. All right, our first one, Google for Workspace Education Standard. So we're still going to have those collaboration tools. We'll have Google Docs, Drives, Slides, and more. You're going to have your communication tools. You're going to also then, with this paid tiered edition, have Security Center to be able to proactively prevent, detect, and remediate threats. So you're going to have that extra layer of security with this education standard. Also for that back end, you're going to have advanced device and app management to perform audits and enforce security and app access rules, which can be really helpful because if we're looking at teachers being able to push out whatever apps they want or using those extensions frequently, it can really bog down your network. So having that ability to have a little bit more control to be able to ensure that those apps, those pieces that are pushed out are going to be adhered to by your district. And then you'll have a Gmail log and classroom log. So you'll have a few more analytics that are available. So again, teachers aren't going to see too many differences with this first tiered paid edition. That more so is going to be on the back end for admin. All right, our next tier, our middle tier, is that teaching and learning upgrade, which is where teachers really are going to see some of those additional features and benefits. Particularly, we'll take a look and tease out a little bit today within Google Meet and within Google Classroom. So Google Meet right off the bat, you're going to have meetings up to 100 or 250 participants. And you can live stream with up to 10,000 in-domain viewers using Google Meet. So if you have a larger district, if you're doing a open house, or if you're having a board meeting or anything like that, where you're wanting participants to be able to live stream in, it's a great option. But also within Meet, we'll take a look at those premium engagement features. So with this next level access, or this next tier for this premium edition, teachers are going to see some engagement features like being able to create a poll for your students. So in the middle of your lesson, you can quickly poll your students, having a Q&A session so that you can have check for understanding so that students are actively engaged in your lesson. Breakout rooms, and then there's a few other features that we'll take a look at that are available with this paid access. With Classroom, you're going to have additional access to be able to provide add-ons into your classroom. So some different teacher tools that are available that you can directly integrate into Google Classroom. And then our last piece within Google Classroom is with this tier, teachers will have access to unlimited originality reports and the ability to check for peer matches across your private repository of past student work. We're going to tease that one out a little bit more today so we can really see the power of that and what benefits we're going to find with having that built directly into a tool that both teachers and students are familiar with. All right, and then our last tier, again, that highest tier, few more details about Google Workspace for Education Plus. So we are going to see an increase in participant levels with Google Meet. So now with Google Meet, with this level, you can have meetings up to 500 participants and live stream up to 100,000 in-domain viewers using Google Meet. With this tier, you can sync rosters directly to Classroom from any student information system. Huge help because then teachers wouldn't necessarily need to manually enter in students' email addresses to roster or send out an invite link. They'll be able to merge those together. Personalized cloud search, and then that last piece, faster response times from a support team of from that product specialist. So that, again, teachers aren't going to see too many differences, but from the back end for larger districts, really great option to have those higher levels for Google Meetings, but also to be able to have some additional support as you're working with a larger volume of students, teachers, parents across your district. Okay, I'm going to pause there. We just walked through the different additions. And before I move on to our next part, I'm just going to see if there are any questions that anybody has about those different additions, what that means, and what you'll get with those different premium features and those leveled up additions.
Awesome. It looks like we're looking good so far, Kate.
Perfect, and no private messages. Great. Okay.
Yeah, we're looking good.
Okay, so one thing I do want to note, you will be receiving this as a resource, but I do have linked on all 3 of our edition pages that where I outline what comes with them. It is linked to the Google Compare editions, so you're able to see a little bit more information about what's going into each of those editions. Alrighty, and then next up then, I'm gonna tease out a bit more about teaching and learning upgrade. So that within this upgrade, that's where we're seeing the most features coming through for teachers, for them to really see the difference between the different levels. So we're gonna first take a look within Google Classroom and seeing the originality reports that are available to teachers. And then we'll take a look within Google Meet, those additional features for engagement for students. Okay, so within Google Classroom, we'll see both with teaching and learning and also with Education Plus. Teachers are going to receive unlimited originality reports in Google Classroom, which without these upgrades, teachers will receive 5 originality reports for their class. So it is still a feature that's available, but with this upgrade, it's something that can be a really powerful tool that teachers are able to rely on more regularly within their classroom to really help support students with them submitting their original work, but also for teachers to be able to have that tool built right into Google Classroom is going to be a huge help. So again, with originality reports, teachers will not need to download any student work and upload it to a plagiarism checker, like turn it in. It's something that's going to happen all housed within Google Classroom. It's going to support also when students submit their work through Google Docs or through Google Slides. So it doesn't have to be just a Google Doc. The program will also search through Google Slides for that information to see, again, just to check to make sure that there are those original ideas and concepts that students are turning in. The last piece that it's going to do is not only is it going to check for outside sources, doing a Google search to be able to compare student works with other information, it's also going to compare within your domain. So any past student work that has been submitted, as you start to utilize this tool more, you're going to build up your library. It's going to also then check past student work to see if this is something that another student has turned in, and your new student this year is now turning it in. It's a huge feature, huge time saver, but really the benefit of it is to support students with understanding, how do I submit original work, right? It's not as a gotcha tool. It's not as a way to try and catch kids with pulling things over from, maybe doing a copy and paste. It's more so about really teaching them to be careful with what sources they use, and for them to go through that learning process to truly submit their own original work. Okay. I do have linked on here as well a resource for you all that I will put in the chat. can be a helpful guide. And this will also still be in our slide deck as well, so that you'll have this available. But this is a quick comparison between Google Classroom's originality reports and Turnitin. So Turnitin is a pretty popular site that a lot of teachers use to be able to submit work for students. Students also are encouraged to use it before they're turning anything in. We see it more so with high school. I'm not quite sure if middle school teachers are using Turnitin, but still something, a great tool to be able to check again for that originality without having to need another system in order to do it. Okay. Before I move into Google Meet, I am going to show you where originality reports live and what it looks like from the teacher side and the student side. So when I come into Google Classroom, I'm going to come to my stream. So when teachers want to turn on originality reports, they are going to need to create an assignment. So I'll click on my classwork tab and then choose that circle Create Plus and then choose Assignment. Now for assignments, you just need the title, but I always recommend whenever you're doing an assignment, you also put really clear directions in your instructions. So what are they opening up? What are they needing to complete? And then really explicitly telling them turn it in to Google Classroom, the completed document, not just clicking turn in, which some students tend to do. But then our last thing that we need to do as the teacher, if we're wanting to have that originality report turned on for that assignment, we're going to see on the right-hand side, we have this option to check plagiarism or check originality. When I turn that on, that is now active for that assignment. And as I start to grade and start to read through student work, providing comments, providing feedback, it's gonna, I'll be able to run the plagiarism checker, the originality report, to be able to see specifically how original that student's piece of work is. Now, when we do take a look in the back end here, I'm gonna quick open up what an originality report actually looks like. Let me quick go here is where I wanted. So within that originality, you'll be able to see specific individual passages. You'll have highlighted options that will show for web matches, and you'll be able to scroll through to see that student's originality. Again, you might see some, if a student's paper is lit up with highlights, more often than not, they didn't write that completely. It's also really helpful if students are quoting or citing that this is a great opportunity for them to be able to cite where they're getting their information from. Okay. Now, if you do not have the Teaching and Learning Upgrade or Education Plus, you do still have originality reports available. You just do not have unlimited use of them. So you'll only have 5 available. So pick and choose if that is something that you want to use. Maybe it's your summative assessment for your students. Maybe it's that end of trimester, end of semester paper, research paper that they're working on. So you can still utilize that tool within that assignment. Okay, and then you'll hit assign. Now for student view, let me quick see where I have that. For student view, once they come to that assignment, so this was the assignment I just posted, I'm now in a student view of it. Once the student has submitted their work, they'll be able to run originality reports. So it's not just for you, the teacher, it's also for students to be able to check their own work, to be able to run it before they even turn it in. They'll be able to see and compare, oh, yeah, this is pretty much identical to the Wikipedia article that I read. So I'm gonna probably need to reword that a little bit. So they are gonna see that the originality report is turned on for that assignment as well. So again, there's no gotcha pieces at all. It's more about helping to support students with finding information, being able to synthesize that information and put it into their own words. Alrighty, beautiful. I am going to quick show one last screenshot of originality reports before we move on to some of the features in Google Meet. So again, we did take a look at how we can check that box within the originality reports, and then you'll be able to see, you'll have highlighted areas, and you'll be able to run that originality. And you'll be able to see for word matches, phrase matches that are going to show up for you. I thought this was a really good quote as well from a teacher. So I want to provide my students with the opportunity to check their work for plagiarism, and turn, instead of it being this cheating detection, it's more of that learning opportunity. We want students to be able to turn in their own original work. So having that frame and that mindset is going to be huge to be able to leverage that tool within Google Classroom. Okay, and then here's just a quick screenshot of that student pre-check so that they're able to see, okay, this passage, here's the web match, and here's exactly where it came from. So students are able to check that again before they even turn it in. They can check it, revise it, and return it in so that they can get their best work being able to turn it into you. All right, any questions on originality reports before I move on to taking a look at some Google Meet features? I'm really good with my teacher wait time today.
You're doing awesome. I think you're just explaining it perfectly.
All right, team, I don't see coming into the everyone chat, but again, if you have individual questions, feel free to post that in the chat or send one to me or Camille. All right, our last piece that we're going to take a look at some of those premium features that are going to come with Teaching and Learning and Education Plus. We'll take a look at those features within Google Meet. I'm going to go ahead and put one resource in the chat for you all. This compares Meet so that we can see the different features, different engagement pieces that are going to be available for teachers that have the Teaching and Learning upgrade or the Education Plus upgrade. We're going to see that within Google Meet, with these two upgraded plans or these two upgraded editions, teachers are going to now have access to provide question and answers in real time, instantly within your meeting. You can provide a poll question for your students to be able to get more engagement from them. And you're able to create breakout rooms for students, all while staying within Google Meet. And I'm going to go ahead and, whoops, did the wrong out. Move us over to Google Meet. Had one open, but it closed. So we're going to get a new one open now. All right, so within a Google Meet, you're going to see in the lower right-hand corner that there are, it looks like you have your people icon. That's where you're going to see your participants. Then you see the chat function, and then right next to that, you're going to see a grouping of shapes. So there's triangle, square, circle. When I pop that out, that then is going to provide me with those premium features. So all of our activities are going to live in that same menu. And when we take a look, if I'm ready for my breakout rooms, great option to be able to split students into their smaller breakout rooms. Even if you are face-to-face using this as a tool, if students are needing to split up, if you have a student that's at home, great opportunity to join students together all while staying within the same Google meeting. You can set up those breakout rooms just by clicking on that pencil icon to be able to set up your breakout rooms for how many rooms you want available. Google will then sort through your students, put them into their into their breakout rooms, and then you can readjust. You can change, move, shift students around as you see fit for that breakout. Polls, great way to be able to do a temperature check, understand where students or participants are at in the middle of a meeting. Within that poll, it's going to be a multiple choice question, and you can have, by default, there'll be 2 options, but you can provide, I believe, up to 10 options. But with a poll like this, we always recommend keeping it to 5 options or under, just so it's a quick question and answer, quick poll, so that you can get some information from your participants. Q&A, great option to be able to turn on to have that two-way communication during a Google Meet. If you have a distance learner student, if you have someone who's at home sick, if you're doing a larger, maybe it's an after school meeting, to be able to have, if a parent isn't able to make it, you can use Google Meet, have a quick Q&A for them to be able to push out any questions your way as you're providing information. Maybe it's a back to school night where you have an open house, not every parent's able to come. You can still provide a Google meeting for parents to be able to join and get the information they need without needing to be on site. And then recording. So recording is available for, let's see, for teaching and learning and for Education Plus. The recordings, so with those features, are going to directly record and save that file in your Google Drive. So huge benefit, huge bonus for you to have those recordings. You don't have to find a place to save it on your computer, on your local drive. It's going to automatically save to your Google Cloud Drive. So having those recordings, having that readily accessible in your drive, because then you're able to quickly copy that link and then send it off. And then whiteboarding, we do have the ability to start a new whiteboard. It is an interactive whiteboard that will then create a Jamboard session. Won't go into too much detail with this one because we do have a whole other web series specifically dedicated to Jamboard, but Jamboard is my jam. Love it. It's a great opportunity to be able to show, explain your thinking to a student, for students to be able to explain their thinking. It's a huge tool that is already embedded into Google Meet and a great way to be able to have collaboration with students, to be able to visualize a concept. Really great tool to be able to have built right into Google Meet. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and leave this call because we're not in a Google Meet, we're in a Zoom. Alrighty, team, we've gone through quite a bit today, but knowing that next week we are going to take a look at those updates, I do just want to quick check in and see how we're feeling, questions, taking a look at those different additions, or any pieces that you would like any clarification on. Alrighty, well, I did mention that continuing with our series, next Thursday, we will be taking a look at the updates. So that will include updates that have already been pushed out. Like you may have noticed within Google Slides, you now have a little icon for Google Meet, or within Google Docs, there's some emojis to be able to have some reactions. But we'll also see what's to come and kind of the roadmap and some pieces to look out for within Google Workspace. And then again, our last session on the 19th will be our question and answer, so that we can help make sure that you're feeling confident, comfortable with all those new additions and upgrades that are available. All right, team, if there aren't any questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up for this first session. I do have, if you would like a certificate of participation, we do have a quick survey for you to fill out so that you can receive your certificate of participation and we can get a little bit of feedback for this webinar format. I can paste that in our chat. It's a quick survey for you to fill out. But again, I just want to reiterate, our team is here to help. Any questions that you might have, please feel free to reach out to us at pd@bloom.com. But looking forward to seeing you all again next week as we talk about all the updates within Google Workspace.